Good evening, my name is Eric Nsigiti. First, the headlines. Public Accounts Committee to track abused 6.2 billion kwacha COVID funds recovery. Hearing of the Norman Chisale property seizure matter moved to October. In other news, cases of human trafficking increasing in Malawi. We also have the latest in international news. Stay with us. In our top story, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament is set to summon parties that were initially queried in the abuse of 6.2 billion kwacha meant for COVID response. Chairperson Shadrack Namalomba says the committee wants to follow up on efforts to recover the funds. Audrey Kabalamula reports.
The April probe followed a National Audit Office report that was released following the directive of President Lazarus Chakwera. Namalomba says some of the groups to be called include the Office of the President and Cabinet, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, and individuals as per audit report from the National Audit Office.
We have received the communication from the Presidential Task Force informing us, because following what we had agreed with them, that within 45 days, which 45 days elapsed end of June, to come back with a list of all their members who were receiving allowances, categorized as those that received them eligibly, and also those that they were ineligible to receive those allowances. So they have written us, and that information, we have it. We will be meeting next week to look at that information.
The PAC chairperson says with OPC, there will be a need to find out action taken after the release of the 6.2 billion kwacha report. Co-chairperson of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Wilfred Nkoma, who previously appeared before the committee, was not immediately available for comment. The 6.2 billion kwacha audit report, among others, indicated that large sums of the funds were used for allowances instead of procuring the equipment meant to help in the fight against the pandemic.
Hearing of the property seizure matter involving former President Peter Mutharika's bodyguard, Norman Chisale, has been shifted to October. Chisale was seeking the Constitutional Court's interpretation on whether the property seizure is lawful. The Constitutional Court was on Tuesday expected to hear the case, which the defense wants to proceed as a constitutional matter. Isaac Salima has the latest.
The High Court in February this year granted order to government to seize Chisale's property worth 1.7 billion kwacha for being suspected to be proceeds of a crime. Chisale's lawyer Chance Gondwe confirmed the shifting, saying the case will go to court on October 11, 2021, before a panel of 3 judges to be chaired by Justice Dingsawe Madison. Director of Public Prosecution Stephen Kayuni also confirmed to have been communicated to on the shifting. Kayuni, however, told us previously that they will challenge the defense's application by making their presentation when the hearing day comes. He further said as far as they are concerned, this is not a constitutional matter under the Financial and Crimes Act because the matters are akin to criminal proceedings. Justice Mike Tembo granted the seizure order to the Office of the DPP through the Asset Forfeiture Unit, Malawi Police Service, the Financial Intelligence Authority, Anti-Corruption Bureau, and Physical and Fraud Department, who had jointly applied for the court order. Among the items to be seized included residential properties and a fleet of motor vehicles.
Cases of human trafficking in Malawi jumped from 147 people in 2019 to 688 in 2020, according to the Ministry of Homeland Security. Secretary for Homeland Security Kennedy Nkoma said this in Lilongwe on Monday. That in 2018 a total of 136 persons were trafficked. Taonga Sabola reports.
Speaking when he briefed reporters on the preparations of the World Day for Trafficking in Persons slated for July 30 in Mzuzu, Nkoma, who is also chairperson for the Trafficking in Persons National Coordination Committee, said time has come for all Malawians to play a role in arresting the vice.
we bring awareness to those living with us. We bring awareness to those who intend to be involved in this evil practice. That as Malawians, we are not happy, and we will not celebrate anyone who will be involved in this deadly vice.
In recent years, Malawi has been used as a route for trafficking people to other parts of Africa. Global Hope Mobilization Executive Director Caleb Tole said recent studies have revealed that only 1 out of 10 Malawians appreciate the dangers of human trafficking.
That almost 95% of Malawians, they are not aware of issues to do with human trafficking. So out of 9 people, only 1 person can able explain what human trafficking is and what are the evils and what are the challenges that we are facing. So this event comes at a time where we need to raise awareness to the general public, to be aware of the vice of human trafficking, but also to be aware of the vice of human smuggling.
According to a U.S. State Department report on human trafficking in Malawi, Malawi remained on watch tier 2 as the government of Malawi does not meet the minimum standard for the elimination of trafficking, but it is making significant efforts to do so.
Some Malawians have urged the government to prioritize people receiving the second jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine before those receiving the first dose. The cause come amid fears of having to wait longer than required for the second jab once the vaccine runs out. Administration of the vaccines has restarted across the country after the arrival of 192,000 doses of the vaccine at the weekend. Our reporter Gary Samati reports from Blantyre.
There was a large turnout of people in Blantyre as Malawians lined up to get their jabs. At Gateway Clinic, separate lines were created for essential workers and those with underlying health conditions. A medical practitioner, Mzati Chigalipo, told us that they're doing this to speed up the process of administering the vaccine.
It's quite important because they've been able to prioritize what we can call the vulnerable groups, but they've also given an equal opportunity for everyone else to also get the vaccine.
Earlier on, Blantyre District Health Office announced it was targeting all Malawians during the exercise. But some Blantyre residents, like Adrian Chaguluga, suggest that the government should prioritize those who already received their first jab.
That earlier jab, you don't want them to miss that window where they have to get the second jab.
Minister of Health Kumbize Kandodo Chiponda, however, maintains all Malawians will be targeted during the exercise. Malawi received about 192,000 doses of the COVID vaccine on Friday, after going over a month without the vaccine.
Matthews Kasanda is in the capital Lilongwe and reports that people braved cold weather and long hours of waiting to get the jab.
Times crew visited a number of vaccination sites in Lilongwe, including Lilongwe City Mall and Bwaila Hospital. Mwai Chumbodzo is one of the people who went to Bwaila Hospital to get her second jab of COVID-19 vaccine.
It's the second jab, and I think it's necessary in order for us to be protected from COVID-19, and I would like to encourage everyone to come and get vaccinated.
Meanwhile, Malawi Interfaith AIDS Association, MIA, has held the government for sourcing the vaccine, further calling upon the government to prioritize those who got the first dose. The grouping of key religious mother bodies has therefore emphasized on the need to have adequate supply of the vaccine. Pirita Ndafelankande is MIA Executive Director.
We are not rejecting the proposal of government of putting the people who have underlying issues as a priority. What we want is, in addition to that, people that already got the first jab should also be put as a priority in addition to the other people. The reason is there is an uncertainty. No one knows what happens if your duration for the second jab has exceeded. So it's important that these people that exceeded their time should be jabbed first.
The country has had no vaccine for weeks before 192,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine arrived in the country on Saturday last week.
And in Nzuzu, at least 300 people had already received their jabs by 10 o'clock in the morning while 200 others had received theirs at Mzuzu Health Center by the same time. Patience Nunda has more in this report.
Mzuzu Central Hospital Vaccine Coordinator Mona Lisa Tembo said the demand for the vaccine has gone up, which has resulted into congestion at the hospital. Tembo said the vaccines are not enough to cater for the population, and this challenge has been escalated because many people did not receive the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Considering the number of doses we've received for now, at the facility, they are not enough to cater for the population. However, we are expecting to receive more doses as time to come.
Mzimba District has been given a total of 18,300 doses, out of which 14,500 is from Mzimba North and 3,800 is from Mzimba South. Speaking after receiving his jab, 23-year-old Otin Teu said the delay in the arrival of the vaccine was putting many people at risk of the pandemic.
I was afraid to socialize because I had not yet received the vaccine because I was at a threat of contracting the virus.
According to the Ministry of Health, the vaccine will be given to those that received their first dose. Mzimba North has 25 vaccination centers. The country is expected to receive 1.3 million doses of assorted COVID-19 vaccines from July to September.
The Malawi Police Service and Rwanda National Police have agreed to work together in combating terrorism and other crimes. Inspectors General and officials from the two security agencies made the pledge during bilateral talks at National Police Headquarters in Lilongwe. Wezi Gausi reports.
The event was graced by senior police officers and other delegates from both countries. At the ceremony, there was a police parade, and Malawi police demonstrated how they respond to crime. Malawi Inspector General of Police George Kayinja says recently there have been an increase in acts of terrorism in the region. He says terrorism is a vice that needs to be dealt with.
We have looked at issues in terms of how best we can strengthen the fight against terrorism. We've also looked at issues on how best we can share experience and notes in the area of training. You may have heard that they have offered Malawians to go to Rwanda for free.
The Inspector General of Rwanda National Police, Danny Munyuza, says he is happy to share notes with Malawi Police. He says his visit is a reflection on good relationship that exists between the two countries.
We have achieved a lot in areas of training. We have achieved a lot in areas of information sharing, on transnational crimes, especially on crimes related to terrorism.
The Rwandan Inspector General reciprocated a visit by the country's IG to Rwanda early this year.
We'll be back shortly after this break.
Like every mom, you want the best for your child.
Happy birthday.
You feed her mind and nurture her body. And you understand there are times you have to let her pick herself up when she falls. You make sure she knows the joy of sharing happy moments with family. And when everything comes together, you above all others will share the taste of success with her. Blue Band tastes like mama's love.
Hi, little one. What seems to be the matter? I know just what you need. Me! I'm Classic Milk, your instant milk powder. Perfect for breakfast, tea time, or evening time. Whether you're working hard in the office or just relaxing at home. And I'm suitable for tea, coffee, or an instant milk drink for kids just like you. Yes! That's exactly how I make you feel.
classic instant milk from Rab Processors. Full cream milk powder for the whole family.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Welcome back. Livingstonia Synod of the CCP has asked rich countries not to force developing nations like Malawi to adopt laws that support abortion and same-sex marriages. Josephine Chipofia has more in this report, which is being read by Sam Kalimira.
This was said at the induction of the General Secretary for the Synod, Reverend William Tembo, at Kaviwale CCP in Mzuzu. In an interview, Tembo pleaded with members of parliament to weigh the merits of the bill against its demerits, which are enormous.
We would rather live in poverty other than living in luxuries while the lives of the unborn child is being terminated. As the CCP Synod of Livingstonia, we will be the last, if anything, to agree. But we'll never agree until Jesus Christ comes. And I wish everyone globally should understand this. Be it our partners. Our partners, they know. And the global world must know. In Malawi, there is CCP Synod of Livingstonia. And we value life than money. So somebody can stay away with their money as long as we have our life.
Meanwhile, former Vice President Kumbo Kajali said churches have helped a lot in the country, especially in the education and health sectors, and there is a need to appreciate them.
The churches are playing different important roles, like in education. And we are very happy as government that all our main churches have actually helped government from primary, secondary, up to tertiary education. So it's very important that we show our good neighborliness with our colleagues in all the churches.
He then urged the newly inducted General Secretary to walk in the steps of the former General Secretary, Reverend Levinyondo, who was popular in the country because of his works. Reverend William Tembo was elected on 24 October 2020 as the Synod General Secretary and was inducted on 23 July 2021.
In international news, after much lobbying, Australia's Great Barrier Reef will not appear on a list of in-danger World Heritage Sites. Environmentalists call this a terrible decision fueled by political pressure. VOA's Arasha Rabasadi reports.
Scientists and environmental activists have for years called for greater protections for Australia's Great Barrier Reef, but on Friday, the United Nations World Heritage Committee declined to declare the reef in danger. Greenpeace Australia Pacific's Chief Executive Officer, David Ritter, tells the Reuters news agency the move is a mistake.
UNESCO's decision was a terrible missed opportunity to shine a light on the grave danger that our Great Barrier Reef is in, and to begin the fight back for the reef, which can only start with the Australian government taking decisive action to reduce our contribution to climate change.
UNESCO recently recommended the in danger classification, but Australian officials launched an intensive lobbying campaign against it. A UN panel agreed late last week to defer the vote until next year. Ritter says special interests won the day.
It is difficult to imagine how much more in danger the reef could be. So very clearly it is vested interest agendas that have triumphed here, not science, not common sense, and not the best interests of the Great Barrier Reef.
Australia relies on coal-fired power, and per capita is among the world's top carbon emitters. Its conservative government says defending coal is necessary to defend coal jobs. Terry Hughes is the director of the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies. Hughes tells Reuters he disagrees with the government's thinking.
The Australian government is maintaining that keeping the barrier reef off the UNESCO endangered list will protect reef tourism. I don't think that's true. The real threat to reef tourism is Australia's love affair with fossil fuels.
The Australian Environment Minister Susan Leys said in a statement the Great Barrier Reef is, quote, the best managed reef in the world, and pointed to the government's $3 billion investment in its protection. But experts worry that won't be enough to safeguard the biodiversity they say is severely imperiled. Scientists say if coral reefs collapse, it could trigger a catastrophic chain of events, leaving a quarter of the world's marine life without their habitats. Arash Erbasadi, VOA News.
And that's the news for now, but before we go, the headlines again. Public Accounts Committee to track abused 6.2 billion kwacha COVID funds recovery. Hearing of the Norman Chisali property seizure matter moved to October. In other news, cases of human trafficking increasing in Malawi. You've been with me, Eric Nsigiti, but remember you can get more on these and other stories by visiting our website www.times.mw, liking our Facebook page Times 360 Malawi, and following us on Twitter at Times 360 Malawi. Good evening.